Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Blue Whale and welcome back to another patch analysis. Now today we are going to be tackling patch 6.9, the super big mid-season mage update. However, since this patch is so big, now it doesn't really look like it. I mean, if you haven't read the patch notes and you're just looking at these bullets, you're probably like, oh, that's not that much at all, but it's a lot. It's quite a lot. So we're going to actually split this up into 2 episodes. Today, or this episode, I don't know if they're coming out on the same day. They'll come out as soon as I possibly can put them both out. But anyways, this episode is going to be about mages only. So we're going to cover major mage updates, minor mage updates, mage itemization, and the hex tech items. So that's all that this is going to be about. It's not really going to affect much about jungling. So if you are only worried about jungling, might just want to go ahead and skip to the part 2 whenever that gets uploaded to the channel, because on it we're going to cover everything from jungle bosses down through I guess all this crap. It's not really important, but through grievous wounds for sure. So because of that, just know this is only going to be about mages. Now before we get started, the music is the Diamond and Pearl Route 209 remix by Glitch X City. There'll be a link to the YouTube video down below if you want to check that out on your own. Now we'll go ahead and scroll down. These 6 mages got really big updates, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you guys a quick run through of what got changed and how strong the champion is. I don't really want to read every single thing about their spells, because then this video is going to be, 1, probably really boring, and 2, it's going to take forever. So we're just going to quickly run through my impressions on them, which is pretty much what I should be doing anyways. So Vlad, this is actually a video of his E, which we'll get to when we get to it. They buffed a bunch of his general stats. They made the only important one here is his base attack damage went up. This means it's easier to last hit in lane on Vlad. That's pretty much it. All this is kind of just tweaks. His Q, they changed how it works. You gain more ability power per health, and you gain less health per ability power to kind of balance out Vlad. That means it's a little bit better to build Vlad with maybe a couple defensive items now. But I don't think you should do that. I'm just saying it would be better to do that if you want to get the full usage out of your passive. Now his Q is the really big one. His Q and his E both got massive changes. So basically what they did is they kind of switched them. If you've played Vlad before, you knew that his E, it had 4 stacks, and then at the 4th stack it was as strong as it could be. So most of the time you would want to be spamming your E as long as you could afford it. Of course, it does cost health, so you would have to wait till you had some spell vamp. But then after that, you just kind of wanted to spam it. Now you just want to spam his Q. They do pretty much the same thing. His Q is a single target spell that drains life from them, and his E is an AoE splash blood around him. But you want to spam the Q, and the reason for that is they made it overall weaker. However, what happened was, after you cast Transfusion twice, you will gain Crimson Rush once your next Transfusion is ready to cast, so once it comes off a cooldown. And then while under the effects of Crimson Rush, you gain a short burst of speed, and your next Transfusion deals double damage and heals for a portion of Vlad's missing life. And this does stack with itself. So what that means is, basically, if you're in an extended fight, pretty much every other transfusion is going to be this massive hitting one. Now, most enemies will run away from Vlad when they see that it's time for his second Q, but as far as 1v1s, and I have played Vlad on this patch, I didn't do very well with him, but what I got from it is he's amazing in 1v1s. However, he does still kind of suffer when he still has his old weaknesses. But as far as, like, if you can lane top on Vlad, you will win lane. I don't think there's anyone in the game that can beat Vlad in lane. Now, you're still really susceptible to ganks. That's what I mean by his weaknesses. But Vlad is an extremely potent 1v1er right now, and it's all because of this. Once it gets going, like I said, every other Q does double damage and heals you for a portion of your missing life. So it gets pretty insane. The only other major thing they did is his E now works completely differently. Like I said before, it was kind of, you had 4 stacks, and at 4th stacks it dealt the most damage to you and enemies. Now there's 2 major things. One, it's a charge spell, so you can instantly cast it, but it won't really do much at all. But as you charge it up, the cost goes up, so it costs more of your life. However, the damage goes up, and at max rank it will slow enemies hit. Now, it does work a little bit differently too. One thing, you shoot out skill shots. Now, it's really weird how the E works, because it does still hit everything in an AoE around Vlad. However, now it hits it just shoots out things in a line. So if anyone kind of walks in to when you're casting your E, or after cast, they could get hit by it, I suppose. It's not a multi-target select like the old E, and if you've never played Vlad, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically, if a bunch of minions are in a line, you don't want to stand right in front of them or right behind them to use your E. You want to walk to the side. That's pretty much what it means. And overall, this is alright. The E, it's really hard to use because you do want to charge it up before you let go of it. And then while you're charging it up, enemies will usually run away. But overall, it is a little bit stronger, I think, than the old one in most ways. Now finally, his ult. This is all tweaks, but the only important part is that upon detonation, Hemoplague now heals Vlad for each enemy hit, and that has a base heal, and it scales with your ability power as well. Now the reason they threw this in is because they obviously removed Spell Vamp this patch. Spell Vamp just doesn't exist anymore, so they added a lot more healing onto Vlad's kit. Pretty much all of his spells heal him now. The main thing is his Q though. His Q is most of your sustain, and then your ult happens to also heal you. So that's it for Vlad. I think he's amazing in 1v1s. Overall, he still has the same weaknesses of he's really susceptible to ganks because his only escape is his W, which doesn't even move him. It just makes him untargetable for a little bit. I mean, it's a worse escape than Fizz's E. So overall, he's still got the same problems, but he's not awful. Now we'll go ahead and watch his E. I actually kind of forgot about this, but this is what his E looks like. So you charge it up, and then upon full charge, you'll have the giant ball around you, or above you, and then it shoots out skill shots. And this is what I mean by skill shots. Watch this middle minion. Since the Vlad lets go while the Darius is in front of it, it doesn't hit the minion, so it shoots out a bunch of skill shots around you. It's a very strange spell, but overall, Vlad's better than he was, but that doesn't mean he's good, is pretty much my too long didn't listen on Vlad. Now, Malzahar. Malzahar is insane. If you guys have been playing any kind of draft modes, you'll probably notice that Malzahar has been banned permanently every single game. And he's massively, well, I don't know how broken he actually is. I know that he's very hard to play against, and I think people are going to have to get that down. However, he does still need some nerfs. I don't think, well, what I hope Riot doesn't massively nerf him to where he just sucks. I think a lot of Malzahar's strength right now is just people don't know what to do versus him. But he also is a little bit overpowered. So what they did for Malz is they updated his passive, but because of that, they didn't want to get rid of his Voidlings, so his old passive got moved to his W. But then they didn't want to get rid of his old W, so his old W got moved to his ult. Now that's pretty much all that they did to Malzahar, but we'll still kind of break it down. So his new passive, and that's actually what's in this video, but we'll talk about it before we go to the video. His new passive, while has not taken damage, he will get this buff called Void Shift, and while he's in Void Shift, he has 90% damage reduction, and while he's in Void Shift, he's immune to crowd control. So basically what that means is you have to hit Malzahar and then wait a couple seconds. Well, okay, Malzahar loses one Void Shift 1 second after taking damage. So you have to hit Malz and then wait a second to use your CC, which is a huge inconvenience for most junglers because usually you want to lead off with your CC. So overall, it's a huge buff. And that's not even talking about his W. His W is ridiculous too, but for the most part, Void Shift is probably most of his overpoweredness. So we'll go ahead and watch this video. Right now he's in Void Shift. As you can see, this little animation around him, just kind of like a Void aura. That is Void Shift. And now watch this Scion. If you don't know what Scion's Q is, that's what he's using right now. It should knock up targets. But since Malzahar is in Void Shift, he's not going to get knocked up. And he barely took any damage because Scion doesn't really do that much damage on his own anyways. So overall, very, very powerful passive on Malzahar. Now, his Q, they didn't do much to it. The only important thing about his Q is that it no longer has much of a cast time at all. Like, if you read these last two, the cast time went down from... Okay, no, the cast time went up from 1/4 of a second to 1/2 a second, but now it does not have a delay 1/2 a second after you cast it. So overall, it used to take 3/4 of a second if you add the 0.25 to the 0.5, and now it only takes 0.5, so it's easier to use your Q on Malzahar. It's pretty much the only thing important about it. Malzahar's W, Void Swarm. So basically how this works, I don't want to read through all the numbers, but what happens is Malzahar will summon a Voidling, and then when this Voidling hits a champion, large monster, epic monster, or assist in killing a unit. So if a Voidling hits say Malzahar's E, which is exactly the same except they move the numbers around. But if Malzahar's E is on a target and then a Voidling hits it and then the E kills it, what happens is a new Voidling will spawn, and this is when the Voidling attacks a champion, large monster, epic monster, or it assists in killing a unit like I just said. A new Voidling will spawn. And then when that Voidling hits something, or assists in killing a unit, another Voidling will spawn, and another one, and another one. And they, when 3 or more active, they gain 50% attack speed. However, the one thing, it's not quite infinite, because really and truly, that would probably break League of Legends. Additional Voidlings won't spawn if the current Voidling has less than 4 seconds left. Now they last for 12 seconds total, so that means you have pretty much 8 seconds from as soon as you cast it, and you can keep spamming them out. You can get about, I played a game of Malzahar earlier, actually a 1-for-all game of him, and I'd say I got about 5 or 6 usually while using your W, as long as you use it correctly, so it's not a problem to get this 3 attack speed boost. However, this is just a crazy spell, because the Voidlings, they all do a decent amount of damage. Their damage numbers got changed. I'm not going to read through them, but they do decent damage. They still do prioritize targets that are E'd. Actually, now they prioritize targets that are ulted before E'd. And if you ult a champion, and even if you have one Voidling, that one will hit it, and then another one will spawn next to it. And when that one hits another one, and then your ult almost, if you use your W and your ult, that's almost enough to kill a target from full life. That's how crazy Void Swarm is. And Void Swarm also makes Malzahar capable of jungling. I don't think Malzahar is a very strong jungler, simply because his passive makes him an insanely strong laner, 1. And then 2, he really doesn't have any CC except for his ultimate. He can clear the jungle very efficiently, but I mean, overall, I still think he'd be better to play in lane. But because of his W, since they do spawn when hitting a large monster, Malzahar can jungle. They actually deal reduced damage to monsters, but that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal at all. Malzahar can still jungle perfectly fine. Now, his E, like I said, they just kind of move numbers around. It's the exact same. And his ult, the only thing that's really important about this is they moved his old W to his ult. So if you don't know what his old W was, it was that little pool that appeared where you cast it. It was just a little pool. And now, when you ult a target, that pool will appear under them. That pool will damage the target that you're ulting and any other targets near them. That's actually the only damage of Nethergrass. Nethergrass itself doesn't deal damage, but the pool deals a lot of damage. The damage zone is a percentage of the target's max health per second to all targets in it, and the ratio is 1.5% of the target's maximum health per 100 ability power per second. So this means if you had 200 ability power, you'd be doing 13% at level 16. If you have like 600 ability power, then you would be doing what? That would be 2%, 16% maybe? I think that's right. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's crazy. It does very good damage, and the main reason that it's crazy is because of how easy it is to use all of Malzahar's abilities. The most important thing about Malzahar is well, obviously his passive and his W are very strong, but the second most important thing is that they lowered the cast time overall in his Q, and his ult no longer has a cast time either. As soon as you click your ult on someone, it happens. So Malzahar is extremely strong right now, and if he's ever open, I'd recommend try playing him to win ranked games if you have any practice on him. Now, Cassiopeia. Long story short, what they did to Cassiopeia was 2 things. They made it to where she doesn't buy boots anymore. I mean, she just can't buy boots. Cassiopeia cannot purchase boots. It's because she gains 4 movement speed per level. This is actually a pretty significant buff because, you know, not having to buy boots, that's a whole item slot that you don't have to waste on boots. You can just put another damage item there. And the second thing that they did about Cassiopeia is they reworked her W. Her old W was a little circle that you placed on the ground and then it grew over time, but this video actually shows you her new W. It's a line skill shot that takes up a whole lane, and she shoots out like 5 or 6 circles, and they all do very good damage. The Vi didn't take that much because she walked right through it, but if a target stays in it, it does damage per second, so it is very strong. Other than that, Cassiopeia is about the same. They changed her E to where it's always spammable. The target doesn't have to be poisoned for you to spam E. However, it doesn't really do that much damage unless if the target is poisoned. And that's pretty much it on Cassiopeia. Overall, I haven't seen Cassiopeia played. I don't think she's broken, and most people are playing champs that are broken right now. They're not wasting their time on the slightly better champs. But this is a big buff to Cassiopeia, so she'll probably see play. If not this patch, maybe next patch she'll get picked up. So that's how I feel about Cassiopeia. Zyra. Basically what they did on Zyra Her new passive spawns seeds automatically, and her W still spawns seeds, so she just gets a lot more plants. Also, her Q, instead of a circle, it's a rectangle that takes up most of the lane, and we're actually going to show her Q here, and we'll actually see her passive. So I'm going to have to talk about what's happening in this video. So look, this is Zyra's W. Zyra places her W, and watch the Q hitbox. So the Q hitbox, as you can see right here, this seed is not in this Q hitbox. However, the Q now slightly affects plants right outside of the hitbox. So this is going to turn into a plant. See, it was right outside. And then if you notice this seed that showed up right here, that was Zyra's passive. Zyra didn't actually place that. It might even be out of her W range, but that was a Zyra passive that appeared right there. And that's pretty much what her passive does. It just plants seeds now. Her Q has a bigger hitbox, and then as you can see, this is another one from her passive. The passive is completely random, so it's not insanely broken on Zyra, but it will definitely come in handy. It's definitely a buff. I've heard that Zyra's support is actually extremely strong right now, so if any of you guys like playing support, then I recommend trying out Zyra a few times. Her passive periodically spawns them randomly. Her W, the seed life got improved by 30 seconds, and there is a difference between the W seeds and the passive seeds. The passive seeds do not grant vision when stepped on. So if you're versus a Zyra and you think it's a passive seed, just step on it. You won't have any repercussions for that. But the W, they last longer, and they do still reveal targets. And then other than that, it's about the same. Her ult, also they changed it to where it makes the plants deal more damage. It doesn't just make them attack quicker, which I think is a little bit better because overall it makes the attacks worth more, I guess. So overall, Zyra, the main thing obviously is just her passive now. Also, sorry, one more thing, they gave her 15 more movement speed. That is a lot of movement speed, so that's a huge buff. And then her passive is a big buff, although it is completely random, so it's not as OP as you might think, but it is very good. Now we'll go ahead and jump onto Brand. Brand, once again, he's some guy who got a brand new passive that's very powerful. And then most of his abilities, they just kind of move numbers around, but his ult actually interacts with his passive a little bit too. But we're going to go ahead and watch his passive right now, and I will explain it as we go. So Brand's old passive was called Blaze. It was kind of like an ignite that just happened on all Brand's spells because he is a fire mage. You know, that makes sense. Now, Brand's passive works in stacks. There are 3 stacks to Brand's passive, and on the 3rd stack, the target will get a fuse, and that fuse is a big circle around him. Once the fuse goes down, there's a little explosion, and that explosion can actually apply Blaze to enemies as well. So watch this. The Brand Q'd the Anivia. This is 1 stack of Blaze. Once he E's her, that's going to apply the 2nd stack on Anivia, and there's only 1 stack on these 2 targets. And as you can see, the animation's a little bit bigger on Anivia for 2 stacks of Blaze than it is on these 2 targets. And now Brand's going to W all 3 of these. And then as you can see, Anivia gets the 3rd stack of passives. This is the fuse, and then when this fuse goes off, it's going to apply Blaze to Lysandra and Ashe, and they're both going to have the fuse as well. So go ahead and watch that, and then see they have it as well, and then that will apply damage to all of them and Blaze again to these targets. So overall, Brand now is a champion. I mean, he was always kind of like this, but it's even more so now. Brand excels with people that can, with ally champions that can hold enemies still. So like a Mumu jungle, I think a Mumu and Brand is a very, very potent combo. And if you're playing with friends, I'd recommend doing that. It'll be hard to coordinate in solo queue, of course, but if you have a pre-made 5, or even just a pre-made jungle and support or mid laner, it's a really deadly combo, because as long as they're holding still, Blaze works. In most games, the enemies obviously aren't going to stand still like this. Like, once you see this fuse, people run away, and then it's not really going to happen like it does in this demonstration. But overall, if you can get them to hold still, it's very strong. It does a lot more damage. And then, like I said, they just kind of move numbers around on Brand stuff. But his ult, now, it prioritizes detonating Blaze on champions. So that's a little bit different than how it used to work. It used to just prioritize targets that had Blaze. But now if a target has 2 stacks of Blaze and one target has 1 stack of Blaze, the ult will go for the 2 stacks first before it would go for the 1 stack. So that's pretty much it about Brand. Overall, it's obviously a buff. Brand does significantly more damage, but he still has the problem of really relying on AoE control teammates. So Galio, Fiddlestick, I mean not Fiddlesticks, Amumu. Fiddlesticks doesn't really hold people still. He has the same problem Brand does. But Amumu, Galio, maybe Annie's ult, even any of those that Brand can work with to hold targets still on AoE, that's where Brand's going to shine. Vel'Koz got such a crazy buff. I haven't actually seen much Vel'Koz, and I don't know why. I guess I just haven't played with any people that know how to play Vel'Koz, but oh my god. Vel'Koz got a huge buff. Now, what they did was his passive still deals true damage, but it has a lower scaling, and now it scales with your ability power. So it's a little bit better to build more AP on Vel'Koz. But the most important thing, they move numbers around. Q refunds mana, half of its mana if it kills a target, and then they move numbers around. But the important thing is now his passive has a new interaction with his ult. Now, if a target gets all 3 stacks of your passive done on them, they become researched. And what a research target, and this has to be champions, it's only to champions, but if a champion takes all 3 stacks of Vel'Koz's passive, they become researched. And while researched, the research lasts for 7 seconds, and that can be refreshed by Vel's auto attacks or abilities. So pretty much, as long as the target is still in combat with Vel'Koz once they're researched, your ultimate will deal true damage to the target. That is such an insane buff. I can barely describe it to you guys. The best analogy I can tell you is that I'm pretty sure everyone who has played League knows about the better nerf Irelia joke that's been running since pretty much the beginning of League. And the reason for that is because Irelia's whole kit revolves around her true damage. And they had to nerf Irelia about 12 patches in a row from her release because of her true damage on her kit. Same thing with Vayne. Vayne got released and they nerfed her over and over and over and over again until the true damage wasn't that big a deal. So now an ultimate that does full true damage, we'll go ahead and watch the video here, but it is insane. Now look, the first ultimate that's going to happen is a regular ultimate on a Scion that probably has a lot of magic resist. Now you'll see how much damage this does. It's going to do about maybe a quarter of Scion's life. And that, like I said, is the Scion with a magic resist. He's a tanky guy. Now, the second one, this target is researched now. That's what this circle is. They are researched. Now, they still have the same items. Watch how much damage Vel'Koz's ult does now. It does more than 3/4 of Scion's life. So, I can't describe enough how much of a buff that is for Vel'Koz. If you know how to play Vel'Koz, I definitely recommend it. He's very strong right now. But I just haven't seen him. I guess people don't know how to play Vel'Koz. But anyways, that's it for the major mage updates. That took forever. But now we'll go to the minor mage updates. Anivia, basically what they did to Anivia was they moved a bunch of numbers around. All of her stuff got new numbers. And her ultimate works a little bit differently now. So instead of being the large AoE as soon as you place it, now it's a small AoE that expands into its full size. And when it's at full size, Glacial Storm's damage, tilt duration, and slow are all increased by 50%. So we'll go ahead. Oh no, they don't have a video anymore. Okay, sorry. Pretty much what they did. Oh, they also increased the missile speed on her E, and the stun duration scales on her Q. So overall, it's pretty big buffs on most of it because they actually nerfed her ult. Her ult, I mean, technically her full ult is a little bit stronger than it used to be, but overall it's a lot harder to use, and it is a nerf. So they buffed the rest of her stuff. Annie, the one word to sum up Annie is bears. Tibbers, oh, whoops, I did not mean to do that. Yeah, that's annoying. But anyways, Annie, they made it to where Tibbers interacts a lot more with Annie and does a lot more things with Annie. So, now, well, okay, the first thing, Annie's passive is now like Jin's bullets. You can see it under her health bar. But most importantly, we'll just talk about Tibbers. All this crap, they moved some numbers around. W range went up, and her E is now damage reduction instead of bonus resistances, which is actually a pretty big buff as well. But the important part is now Tibbers Tibbers auto attacking got buffed several ways. He has more range. It now scales with Annie's ability power, and he gets bonus attack speed when he is enraged. He gets 275% bonus attack speed. Now, when does Tibbers get enraged? Well, when you first cast Tibbers, he will become enraged. He's enraged on summon. However, there are two things that can also enrage Tibbers. The first is if you stun someone with Annie's passive, Tibbers will get enraged again. And then finally, if you kill Annie before you kill Tibbers, Tibbers will instantly regen 50% of his missing health. He will become enraged, and he'll target Annie's killer. So what this means right here is that if you use everything to try to kill Annie, and you haven't killed Tibbers yet, you're going to die to Tibbers. You really have to work around Tibbers a little bit more. So I kind of like it. Tibbers also, He regens life when he's out of combat, and I don't think he has a duration time, maybe. I think he just stays up until killed, and then you can cast him again or something. I don't know. Tibbers hangs out for a lot longer, and he's a big deal if he gets enraged. So just basically all these Annie changes mean is that you have to actually really worry about Tibbers. You can't just focus on Annie. Now, Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks got some buffs. I actually have a new Fiddlesticks video that should be going up for this video on patch 6.9. So there's actually 2 Fiddlesticks videos in a row. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend you go watch that. But Fiddlesticks' new passive, while Fiddlesticks is holding still, he will gain Dread. And then when you start moving after Dread, Fiddlesticks will gain bonus movement speed. So this means while you're waiting to cast your ultimate, you'll gain this Dread, and then after you cast your ult, you'll have a huge movement speed boost. Also, while you're draining a target, you'll gain Dread. Then while moving, you'll gain the bonus movement speed. But it doesn't apply on immobilizing crowd control, so it's not like somebody stuns you, and then as soon as the stun is over, you just get to haul ass away from them. That's not how it works. But other than that, while you're holding still, if you hold still for a little bit and then move, you'll move really fast. Pretty much is what they did. And now his ult, well, the only other important thing, they move numbers around on his Q and his W, but his E now hits 7 times instead of 5 times. It's actually a pretty big buff to Jungle Fid. Makes you clear a lot quicker. And his ult has an on my way ping, kind of like Pantheon and Twisted Fate and Rek'Sai's ults. So that's it for Fiddle. Did these changes make Fiddlesticks OP? No. Is he playable? Yeah. I mean, if you really like Fiddlesticks, feel free to play him, but he's not an insanely great champion. He's middle of the pack. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Kinnan. I kind of paused it there, so I don't know if the music shifted up or anything like that, but I didn't know what these guys did, so I had to read through it. Now we're moving on to Kinnan. Basically, Kinnan, a lot of it was just numbers switching. They kind of moved around his mark duration. Basically, what they did with his mark is that they made it slightly less punishing to keep hitting the same target over and over and stunning them. They moved numbers on Q and W. But now his ult works completely differently than it used to. Well, not completely. It's still an AoE around him, and it's still a Lightning Storm. However, now, Slicing Maelstrom can hit the same target more than 3 times. So before, it could only hit a target 3 times during your whole ult. But now, Slicing Maelstrom ticks every 5 seconds, and it lasts for 3 seconds. So that means overall you'll get, well, it's every 0.5 seconds, sorry. And lasts for 3 seconds, so that means you'll get 6 ticks overall. You'll get 6 ticks of Slicing Maelstrom while you're using it. Now, every single time it ticks, Slicing Maelstrom will hit every single target possible inside of its radius, including minions and monsters. So if you just get in the middle of a bunch of enemies and you start using your ult, you'll hit every single one of them. However, only the first 3 can apply your passive, so that means you can't get 2 stuns just from your ult on a target. That doesn't happen. You can only get 1 stun just from your ult. However, you can also stun with all of your other spells, of course. But it does that, and overall the damage got increased a lot, but only if you get somebody with all 6 hits. It's, as you can see, the max damage per target, the bases went up and the ability power scaling went up, but that's only if you get the full ult on someone. However, overall it makes Kinnan, his ult is a huge deal in team fights. However, he still has a lot of the same problems he had before. Basically, Kinnan has trouble either getting in or getting out of fights. That's always been Kinnan's issue. And when he doesn't have that issue, it's simply because he does so much damage that he's just overpowered. So what I think they could have done is kind of reworked his E to where he can get in and get out. But they did not do that, so he's still going to have those problems. But overall, I mean, it is a buff. So Kinnan's probably a little bit better now. Now, Swain. Swain, they did some stuff to Swain. They updated how his Q works, and then how his ult and his E works slightly. His W, they just lowered the cost. It's not a big deal. But basically, instead of selecting a target with your Q like you used to, you select a small target area. And now Beatrice, which is what Swain's bird is, Swain's raven, pet raven is called if you didn't know that. Beatrice will fly to the location, and it will target nearby enemies in that location. And then if the ones that it'll target one target. It doesn't hit all enemies. It hits one target in that area. But if that target leaves the area, then Beatrice will focus other things. So basically, you can use it to harass champions in the middle of their minion wave, and then when the champion leaves, Beatrice will also hit the minions afterwards. Now it has no priority on its own. However, if your torment is on a target, then Decrepify will prioritize them. So you want to use your E on a champion, and then you can send Beatrice after them. And then when they run away, Beatrice will also push the lane, and it deals 100% bonus damage to minions. So overall, it's a pretty big buff for Decrepify. Now, like I said, they moved his E numbers around a good bit. It's actually a pretty big buff. So what they did is they made his base damage go way down, but now it has a higher ability power scaling, and it increases all of Swain's damage by 20% instead of at every rank. It's not just 20% at rank 5. So what I think they did here is they want you to max Q first and then E, and that's certainly a lot more forgiving now than it used to be before. Now finally, Swain's ult. Now it works a little bit differently. Every 0.2 seconds, Swain will spawn the birds, the lesser ravens, to go out. They hit a target and then they come back and heal them. That's how his ult works now, except now it's every 0.2 seconds. I think that's a lot quicker than it used to. But there's a cooldown on the same target. So lesser ravens can't hit the same target for 1 second. So basically, while you're using your ult, you'll only be able to hit a champion if you're fighting them every second, which sounds pretty good, but obviously 0.2 seconds would be a lot better. However, it's not bad. In a big team fight, people will be coming and going out of your range, and you have the chance to hit them every 0.2 seconds, but there is a 1 second cooldown on those targets. Now, the healing went down a little bit on minions, which it should have, because it would be very broken if it didn't. And the maximum number of ravens actually went up from 3 to 5. Now, this is a big deal because it means in a 5-on-5 team fight, you can actually hit all of the enemy champions with every single tick of your ultimate, which of course it has a 1 second cooldown, but still, it's a big buff. The E got buffed, the Q got buffed. Swain's gonna be a lot better. Even his passive got buffed, and his auto attacks got buffed. They pretty much buffed everything on Swain. So if you like playing Swain, I actually do, so I probably will try Swain out myself. He's a lot better now. Syndra. So they did a lot of just kind of tweaks on Syndra. They made it to where her passive bonuses are different. So now her Q passive bonus, instead of dealing extra damage to champions, it makes spheres last a little bit longer. Her W passive bonus, yeah, instead of the slow duration increasing, you can now grab more than one target with her W once you get this passive W bonus. So that's pretty cool. It means you could grab like all the caster minions in a wave if you wanted when you've maxed it out. But overall, they're not crazy changes. And they buffed the Q ability power ratio. That's because obviously now it deals less damage. This does not mean that she's broken. I know Syndra's a champion that when she's good, she's very good, but they didn't break her because of that. And then also her E, the cooldown went down. So just a few changes to Syndra to make her a little bit better, I guess, overall, but I don't think they're crazy OP changes or anything like that. Veigar. They updated his passive, so instead of having the huge mana regen passive like he had before, now he has phenomenal evil power. Or, well, pretty much phenomenal evil is how we'll really call it. And when you hit an enemy champion with an ability, you will gain a stack of phenomenal evil. And phenomenal evil gives Veigar 1 ability power per stack. So this means just hitting an enemy with your Q, your W, or your ult will gain you 1 ability power every single time you do it. But it's only enemy champions. But it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good. And I'm not sure if this actually applies on his E or not, because it just says striking an enemy with an ability. And his E certainly is an ability, but it doesn't damage enemies. So I don't know how that works. If any of you guys want to comment if you've tried out Veigar. I'm probably not going to play him. I don't like Veigar very much. But if it does, then you could get 5 AP from 1 E cast. So that would be pretty good. Overall, this is a pretty big buff. However, you just got to interact more with enemy champions instead of AFK farming minions. But he still does have that in his kit. Now, your Q grants a stack of phenomenal evil on kill, so it means it gives you 1 ability power every time you kill a target. And it grants 2 if you kill cannon minions or enemy champions. And then his ult is now an execute. Before, it was just a huge nuke, and there were even times where Veigar could just hit ult and it would kill people, but now it's an execute. So it deals more damage and it scales harder with your ability power based on the target's missing life, pretty much. So I don't really like it. I really liked Veigar's old kit. I know it wasn't very good, but I just like the idea of just being able to farm up and then one-shotting people late. But now he doesn't one-shot people anymore. His ult is not capable of it because of the way it scales. You will never one-shot someone with Vigar's ult. They have to be low for it to actually do damage. But it's okay. I guess it's okay. Victor, they moved tons of numbers on Victor. I'm not going to read through all of this crap. But the important thing is that they kind of reworked how his E works a little bit. It moves a lot quicker. The delay takes a little bit longer. But if somebody gets hit with the initial damage and the delay, they take way more damage than they used to. Now the base damage and the scaling is up. You can see the ray and aftershock damage here. So overall, they just kind of reworked how it works. It's a lot better to use your E after your W, I suppose, on Victor, and then you'll do a lot more damage. Victor, once again, not a champion I really play, but his E is a lot more rewarding to get both stacks off. That's pretty much what they did. And then they moved numbers around on his ult. A ton. Lots of numbers moving around. It does do a lot more damage, his ult does. So if you can get the full ult on someone, you'll do a lot more damage. But anyways, on to Xerath. Xerath is actually a champion I play, so I'm a little more interested in him. They made his E to where it can stun more at full rank, but it stuns less up close. So it's going to be a little bit harder to deal with champions that get right up in your face as Xerath. So I don't like that. I would have liked it if they had left it where it was and then just increased its max rank, but maybe that would have been too strong. I don't know. But they changed how his ult works. This is actually a pretty big deal. So the number of barrages went up from 3 at all ranks. Now it scales with each rank. So at level 16, your ult will be able to hit 5 times. The range got increased by 10%, so it's a little bit bigger. The impact radius increased by 10, so there's a little bit larger explosion. And it now zooms out like Jin's ult does. So overall, pretty big buff to Xerath's R. And overall, I do like these changes. I just don't like the minimum nerf, or this. They nerf the minimum duration of his E because it's really annoying to deal with champions that get up close to you. But I guess that's why they did it, because they thought Xerath was too strong doing that. Now Ziggs, I don't even know why they gave Ziggs these changes. I guess he's been kind of out of the meta, but basically they buffed his passive, they buffed his ult, and they super buffed his W. Now his W can be used on turrets below a scaling percentage of their life to instantly destroy them, and this goes up to 35%. So Ziggs might, I mean, I haven't seen this yet, and I really don't want to see this, so keep it on the down low, but Ziggs would be a really nasty support with an AD carry that can take down turrets. Like, imagine a Tristana Ziggs lane, and then the first time you back, the Tristana gets the turret to below 35% life, and then Ziggs just one-shots it. I mean, come on. So maybe we'll see some Ziggs supports. And I mean, this does help him, obviously. If it's a mid lane Ziggs, helps you push the lane a little bit quicker. But I mean, 35%? That is a very large number. So, like I said, I don't know why they did this, but whatever. I haven't actually seen that many Ziggs, but you guys might want to try them out, especially as a support Ziggs. I know that doesn't really exist yet, but I mean, 35%. And that's it for the mage updates. So now we'll move on to the mage items a little bit. I'm not going to read all the numbers, but if I think anything's really important, we'll stop on it. So Tear of the Goddess doesn't give you mana regen, but it refunds a percentage of the mana spent. So it's a little bit better for spam mages than it was before. Catalyst, 50% of damage taken is gained as mana, and then spending mana restores 20% of the mana spent as health, up to 15 per cast. So overall, Catalyst and Catalyst items in general are now very good while you're in fights a lot. So Echo or any close range mage that wants to get up close and fight all the time, Catalyst is much better on them, pretty much. Chalice of Harmony, it now restores either health or mana, whichever is at a lower percent. So I think it's pretty good, but I don't know. I don't know. It's not huge numbers, as you can see here. It's just 100% of your base regen on either one, so it's not like going to be crazy sustained. But I mean, it is something. So it's good for weak laners. Lost Chapter. This is actually a completely new item. It restores 20% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds upon leveling up. So it pretty much has the old passive from Catalyst. Now that got moved on to Lost Chapter. Fiendish Codex. cost and ability power increase, so they made it a little bit more powerful item. Oh yeah, by the way, I haven't said this in a while. I don't remember the last time I mentioned this, but as far as how item changes work, if you guys are ever wondering what a general rule is, if they increase the cost but they increase the stats, it's always going to make the item better, because increased stats are always going to make the item better. Even if it's an increased cost, you have to think about items in terms of like super late game. Now obviously it makes the item less gold efficient. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, is this a better item? Yes. If it does more damage even for more gold, it's a better item. Will of the Ancients doesn't exist anymore. Rod of Ages has the Catalyst of Eons passive because it's a catalyst item. Morellonomicon now builds out of Lost Chapters, so it has that when you level up you restore health and mana passive now. Wait, isn't that... Wait. Hold on. Yeah, that one's leveling up, but this one is kills and assist restore your mana, not leveling up for Morellonomicon. Okay, so it's a little bit different. Athene's Unholy Grail is kind of a support item. It's like combat support, so Lulu, Morgana, and Karma, or even Orianna mid. I saw one of those take this. Basically, it gives you 20% of pre-mitigation damage you deal to champions. It's gained as blood charges up to a cap. Healing or shielding an ally consumes your blood charges to heal that ally. So, when you deal damage to champions, you'll gain these stacks. And then when you shield or heal an ally, those stacks heal the ally even more. So, like I said, it makes combat supports a lot more useful overall. Like those champions that didn't have heals before, but they really needed it, that's what Athene's does. Now it lets you heal targets even if you don't have a heal on your kit. And it gives you the same thing as the Chalice passive, where it gives you increased health or mana regen, whatever you need. And then Tear of the Goddess. Okay, now here's a big one that actually affects most of us as junglers. Abyssal Scepter is a very good item still. I mean, it was a very good item before the update, but now it costs a little bit more gold, which, like I said, as long as they increase the stats, that's good. They actually lowered the ability power, but they increased the magic resist, and they threw on 10% CDR, and it reduces MR by more at later levels. So overall, Abyssal is a very, very, very powerful item right now. Even if you're not versus any AP, it's still good. I mean, it gives you 10% CDR and it reduces their MR no matter what. So I like this a lot because it makes it to where a lot of champions don't actually have to take CDR on their runes, which was kind of the standard, which every champion had to do that almost. Now, with the new Abyssal Scepter, you can round out your builds at 40% a lot easier. Same thing with Zhonya's, actually. They made Zhonya's less expensive. They lowered the ability power by 30, but nobody really cares because you're buying Zhonya's for the armor and the stasis, which they made the stasis have a 30-second increase, which is kind of sad, but overall, it has 10% CDR, it still gives you the same armor, and it is 600 gold cheaper. So Zhonya's got a pretty big buff on its own. Now, Hextech items. These are probably what most people know about this. Well, actually, Hextech Gunblade is the exact same, except it deals a little bit more damage when you shoot it. But other than that, we're going to really be talking about the GLP 800, the glove, and the Proto Belt. So, the glove is kind of for mages that don't want to get up close to a target. It's actually a lot weaker than Proto Belt. So, if you want to get one or the other, I recommend you go Proto Belt right now. But basically, GLP shoots out some spray of ice, and it's good for kiting. So if you want to play a champion that doesn't want to get near target, so earlier we were talking about Xerath. I shouldn't have scrolled up because it's going to take forever, but basically Xerath is a champion that would want to get this GLP item. So it's okay, but really and truly, the reason that it's worse than the Proto Belt is because the Proto Belt deals a ton of damage, and what the Proto Belt does, it's for champions that want to get up close. However, you can actually use this as an escape, and that's why I think it's a lot better than GLP, because it works both ways. You can use it, it gives you a dash. It gives you a dash on an item. So any champion can get this. It'll add a dash to your kit. And after you dash, the direction that you dash unleashes several firebolts in the direction, right? And these firebolts deal damage, and a target can get hit with more than one bolt. Now the bolts only deal 20% damage for each additional bolt. However, it's still a nuke, and for champions that want to get up close, so Most prominent example probably on our channel is Echo. This is a very good item on Echo. But another example is AP Rengar. Now I know that sounds really weird, but he's a champion that jumps onto someone, uses his W, and then after that Proto Belt just kind of adds another ability. Another combo in. And like I said, it's also a dash that can be used for escapes. So overall, very, very, very strong item this is. Now Gunblade, like I said, they didn't really do much about that. And that's going to be it for the Mage part of the Mage update. I know this video was super long, but it was a lot of stuff. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and make sure you watch out for the part 2, which is going to be more about us in the jungle. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.